Yeah, it just turned out that way. As I said, I started reading, writing, and reflecting, and those were the themes that came to mind as I was working through it. Just the way that you and I are having a conversation
Mhm.
now, and you've got some notes of things that you might want to bring up. But we
Yeah,
don't know for sure where this conversation is going, right? And what topics that we'll move into, etc. But
right.
that's the way the book came together. I mean, after a lot of careful editing and cutting and splicing and everything else, it just sort of came into those were the songs, not just like here we're going to take Ride the Lightning and what's that about.
Everyone, and welcome to a new episode. This is Anderson, and this is a special episode where I speak with Dr. William Irwin. He's the author of The Meaning of Metallica, Write the Lyrics. He is also the editor of Metallica and Philosophy, written by several authors. He is also the generator of the Pop Culture and Philosophy series. Enjoy the conversation. We talk about the lyrics, the philosophy, addiction, existentialism, rebellion, and many other things. Make sure you subscribe, follow Dr. William Irving into his social networks, leave your comments and questions. Thank you and enjoy. Hello, everyone. This is Anderson for Cosmovision, and thank you for joining us. I have the privilege to be with Dr. William Irvin Bill. He goes by Bill. He's a great guy. Let me introduce you directly to him. Um, for those who might not know, Bill, you're a philosophy professor at King's College in Pennsylvania. You started the Philosophy and Pop Culture book series, which you speak about philosophy from pop culture, including Beavis and Butthead, The Matrix, I think Black Mirror too. Is that
That's
right?
yes.
And you're a lifelong metal fan. Your latest book is The Meaning of Metallica, Write the Lyrics, available in Spanish. So, first off, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And here it is in Spanish. I know you have it there too.
Yeah.
How do you say it properly in Spanish?
El sentido de Metallica.
Sentido. All right, wonderful. My Spanish is very, very limited. Your English is wonderful by comparison. So we're going
Thank
to
you.
have
And
a cross-language dialogue here.
yeah, but metal unites us.
That's right.
And that's what we want to do. We want to focus on this conversation with you for the Spanish audience, Spanish speaking audience. I am in Colombia, Medellin, to be more specific. You probably have heard of Medellin, yeah?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, there's a man called Pablo Escobar. He's
I I thought so. I've seen the show Narcos, which has a lot of connection there. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and
Um,
there's indirectly a connection with Master of Puppets, which talks about
mm,
cocaine addiction. So chop your
oh
breakfast on a
yes,
mirror, right?
you are absolutely right, and we will
Yeah,
we'll get back to it when we
yeah,
are talking about addictions and the master of puppets.
yes.
So, but first, let's establish our credentials as Metallica fans. I heard and I read in the introduction to your book that a friend of yours gave you a tape of the Ride the Lightning back in '84, and then you actually saw Cliff Burton live. Tell us a little bit about that. How was that experience and your first introduction to Metallica back in the '80s?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I have OG status that way, although there's always someone who goes back a lot further. But yeah, I first got into Metallica with Ride the Lightning. My best friend Joe at the time had given me a copy of his tape, and of course, then I went on to get my own copy of the album in the vinyl. I see you've got the vinyl there behind you.
Ah,
And yeah, so it's been just one of the real constants in my life. Friends have changed, and places and all sorts of things have
mm,
changed, but Metallica has been with me ever since. And I did get to see Metallica with Cliff Burton on the tour for Master of Puppets, where they were opening up for Ozzy Osbourne.
Wow.
And actually, it was my good fortune to get stranded in the parking lot without a ride after the
Wow.
show, and got to see the guys in Metallica pop out of their tour bus. And yeah,
Amazing.
Hetfield in particular made an impression on me. The other guys were kind of
Yeah.
smiling and having a good time, and there was just something about him. I mean, he just projected this kind of anger and
Mm,
ferocity, what you
yeah.
saw on stage. And I don't recall him being outside the bus as long as the other guys.
Mm,
You got a
yeah.
sense that it was the genuine article.
To me, from this side of the world, I think you are the few people I know that have seen Cliff live, and and you have a personal encounter with the Metallica guys. And I think what you say about James, what he reflects, is is going to be seen in his lyrics, in his compositions. So how did that shape your philosophy, your interest in philosophy? And because we have a similar experience, and I will tell you a bit about that. I just got
Mm,
introduced through the Unjustice for All, but I want to know
yeah.
how that, shares a little bit about how that shaped your philosophy. And
Yeah, yeah. So adolescence, teenage years are for lots of us really difficult and rough years, and so Metallica really spoke to me both in terms of anger and despair and fear. Really right off the bat. And
how old
I
were
was
you?
thinking, yeah.
How old were you?
So I guess I was 14 at the
Mm,
time, 14, 15, and things were not holding in place as they once did. The authority
yeah.
of parents and church and religion,
Right. Mm,
and struggling to make sense of where I fit in this world.
mm, yeah.
Where it used to be a little bit more clear, and metal in general, but Metallica and
Yeah.
James' lyrics in particular really spoke to me, and they've continued to speak to me throughout the years.
Any particular song that hit you?
Well, Fade to Black really spoke to
Yeah.
me right off the bat, because I was really having an existential
Mm,
crisis, and I was in the pits of real despair and depression.
oof.
And it's interesting because it turns out that the song was not inspired by actual
Yeah.
feelings of depression or suicidal ideation that James himself had, but he channeled that as a great artist or a great actor
Mm,
can, and really
yeah.
hit it spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think he lost. He was stolen a device from his guitar. I don't know if it was a pedal or something. And it's amazing how the song speaks of depression, and he was not depressed. I mean, he was sad and maybe upset for losing that device. We have a similar experience. It's funny. It is funny that you say that. I was introduced to Metallica. I was probably 12 or 13. I think it was around 96. And a friend of mine gave me a cassette of Injustice for All. And one of the first songs was Blackened and One. And then there was one guy back in the day that he used to go with a big stereo all the way in the street playing Metallica. And when he heard I was playing it in my house, he came to me, "Hey, do you know the Master of Puppets? Do you know the Kill 'Em All?" And he was an expert, which for Latinos, many people, and I have friends, they pronounce the lyrics almost perfectly, but they have no idea what they mean. So you're talking about existential crisis. I think we relate to that a lot. Um, that brings me to a question: What is the relationship you see from a philosopher between existentialism and metal? Metallica particularly.
Yeah. So one of the core ideas of existentialist philosophy is authenticity. And really, I think Metallica is all about that, right? And so
Yeah.
authenticity, being genuine, being true to yourself, and so if I could reference one song in particular, although it's a theme that crops up throughout their song catalog, if you think of the song "Unforgiven,"
Yeah.
the simple phrase, right? Never free, never me. Uh,
Yeah.
Really encapsulates in four words, and one of the words is repeated there, never. The struggle to be authentic, right? The
Yeah.
song tells the story of a person, a young man who's kind of coerced from birth, to the grave, to act and be in ways that aren't really genuine, that really aren't him.
Mm.
So to be free, right, on the positive side, is to be yourself, right? To allow
Yeah.
yourself to be yourself, to express yourself, to be true to yourself, despite all the pressures that the world puts on us,
Mm.
to act in different ways, to think in different ways, to be in different ways. And, getting back to your initial questions about how I came to discover Metallica at that young age,
Mm.
in young adolescence and teenage years. I mean, that is when I was really starting to feel that most
Oh, yeah.
acutely, right? And I think a lot
Yeah.
of
Right.
people do, right? That it was, relatively easy to be who I wanted to
Mm.
be as a child. But,
Mm.
teenage years, adolescence are the years when you
I
realize,
mean, those years are tough.
yeah, yeah, and you realize you have more of a choice, and the choices you may want to make may not fit with the choices
Mm.
that parents or church or teachers or coaches or whoever else have in mind for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Which brings me that even today, I think that Metallica still resonates when people and young people want to be authentic, because the group thinking and the probably the identity politics and ideologies. I mean, it's actually tough to try to be authentic and non-conform. How do you see that from almost 50 years ago that Metallica is around to nowadays? That still resonates, right? The thing of authenticity and you bring up Unforgiven. I don't want to miss this idea. Is that I think this is a quote from you. I don't remember if it's from this book or Metallica and Philosophy, but it says that the narrator realizes life is war, and therefore starts the warrior virtue with the same idea of authenticity, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the idea that life is war, and that's a theme that goes through lots of songs, right? But you sort of get it on the very first album of Kill 'Em All, right? Where uh,
Right.
you get this idea of warrior virtues, right? Of like hardness and courage and unforgiving, and
Yeah.
all these things that you might associate with heroes, whether ancient Greek or Roman heroes, or
Right.
Vikings, or samurai, or whoever you may want to think of, right? This very
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned like the disappointment of religion. I remember I started attending church in the early 2000s, and I had the CDs, some Metallica CDs. I think actually the Road and Reload. And one guy from the church says, we have to break them. They are a gateway to devil. And so I noticed that some people they get disappointed by the religion, but it's more like a organized religion. And to be, I think, the warrior virtue or mentality is very helpful, so that you don't fall into addiction, for instance. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. So right there's this uh, that's why I say kind of like the warrior and the hero, right? Like everybody
Yeah.
listening to the songs thinks of themselves as like riding with the four horsemen, right? As one of those kind of heroes fighting the Phantom Lord, well, whatever it might
Right.
be, rather than just like the soldier in Disposable Heroes, right? Who's really not regarded as a hero, but just kind of a pawn in the chess game, right? And organized
Yeah.
religion, right? Like as is criticized in Leper Messiah or The God That Failed,
Absolutely.
right? Can really thwart the individual, right? And just tell you to fall in line with what's expected within the organization, right? Like the guy
Yeah.
you're encountering at church who tells you you got to break those CDs, right? Whereas genuine
Yeah.
religion, right, genuine Christianity or whatever religion it may be, really does call for a kind of an individual commitment or relation to the
Right.
divine, rather than
Yeah.
this
And I remember that
organizational
back in,
sheep-like.
yeah, yeah, I think you're right. And I remember back in the 80s, and you mentioned it in the book, that TV evangelist, Jimmy Swaggart, and those kind of preachers. I remember they even criticized, the Christian metal bands from the times.
Yeah.
And actually, they were a really big example of hypocrisy. And I think metal answers to the warrior, and I think it is compatible. I don't know. You may give me your opinion on this. It is totally compatible to have your faith, keep your faith, and be a warrior. Because I mean, the truth is, life is suffering, and that's why there's songs of war, depression, addiction, etc.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. You mentioned like the Christian metal bands. I was a big fan actually of Stryper
Oh yeah,
back in the day, and
mm.
Soldiers Under Command was
Yeah,
was
it's
their
a
their
classic.
their big album, right? And it ends with the Battle Hymn of the Republic, which in particular, it's calling for people to break out of a kind of
Mm.
conformity and to
Right.
actually be, an individual devoted in taking a risk in favor of a cause. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's tension between the two, but there's no absolute contradiction between being both the warrior and the
yeah.
religious Christian.
Yeah, again, because you need to think what you sing, you need to think. I mean, this is about thinking, and that's philosophy. So you're the editor of Metallica and Philosophy from 2007. What was the process of writing now? You're the author of Write the Lyrics. How was the process of meditation, reflection? Writing requires a lot of discipline.
Mhm.
How those ideas, you know, came like rain into your brain, and so it's now up in a book. How was that process for you?
Yeah. I thought that. Thanks for asking. Right. So the originally there was, as you mentioned, this book Metallica and Philosophy, which is part of this whole series of books, like you had mentioned, right, with Black Mirror and philosophy and South Park and philosophy, etc. And I had written one chapter for that, which was on this theme
Yeah,
that you're asking about.
it's the one.
Yeah, so there's a nice collection of some of them for the pop culture and philosophy, introducing philosophy through pop culture. Uh, yeah, but so I had the chance to write that, and I had written very much from my own overview of the lyrical development that you see these themes of warrior virtues, particularly on
Yeah.
Kill 'Em All and following that, right? And talked about Hetfield's upbringing with Christian virtues and
Mm.
going further. But I was never really done with thinking about and apparently writing about Metallica. And I had actually started writing what turned out to be the book that we're talking mostly about here, The Meaning of Metallica, just as a short blog post, mostly talking about this book, Educated, which is about
Mm.
a woman who was raised in a fundamentalist Mormon household. And I found myself quoting Metallica talking about that. And it
Mm.
turned into a piece about Metallica rather than about that book. And it
Yeah.
really ended up being about being a matter of therapy for myself in just
Yeah.
reflecting on all of these different ways in which the lyrics of James Hetfield have impacted me and what they've meant to me. And at first was not really even meant as a book for publication, but really just my own
Reflections.
reflections on the therapeutic value of
Yeah.
Metallica's lyrics. And so, but now it's a book, and a book itself is not something that's finished, right? But I think a good book is, I like to say, a conversation starter rather than a conversation ender. And so
Yeah.
it's wonderful for me to be here with you now, having a conversation that was catalyzed by the book.
Yeah. No, it's exciting to me, and very encouraging to have you as a Metallica fan and thinking on the lyrics, because I actually have to tell you a story. I learned English through Metallica. I was inspired to learn English through Metallica. I remember I would take a cassette, and there was no internet back in the day. No artificial intelligence, no Google Translate, not at all. There was just a magazine that the guys from high school would bring to class, and we would share it. They would share it, and some of the lyrics were there. But sometimes with the cassette, just going backwards and play again, educating your ears.
Yeah,
I give credit to Metallica for my English.
that's incredible. I hope someone passes this on to them for them to hear that. I bet you're actually not the only person, and I bet you're not the
Oh
only
no,
Spanish speaking person who was inspired, to
uh,
learn English by listening to Metallica. But that's an awesome
yeah,
story.
it may sound funny and crazy for some, but when I was teaching English to my son, he was 8 years. I
Yeah,
gave him the Hero of the Day song to
uh,
learn it and sing it,
yeah,
and he's bilingual now.
that's
So
incredible. That's incredible. You know what? It's kind of funny too. You mentioned that. My own connection with that, obviously, this is my native language, but in writing the book, one of the things that I did was memorize songs
yeah,
and sing them. Because you don't really, you look at the words on a page or on a screen, or you try to recall them from memory, and it's not the same. But like in singing them, and I did most of my singing in the shower,
yeah,
because I can't carry a tune. I got a totally different, not totally different, but I got some real insights into what the songs were about in a way that I
yeah,
didn't just from listening or like listening along to just sing them out loud and hear them myself and think through them by
yeah.
singing them. It was really
Which
good
brings me,
experience.
yeah, which brings me to this. I think singing becomes very therapeutic.
Mm.
Talk to us a little bit about the purging uh, element of Metallica, the cathartic element that this music provides. Like in Fade to Black, I remember a Christian author saying that the song encourages suicide, but I think it's quite the opposite. It's showing the people that you can do it, you can overcome. So how's that vicarious experience listening to Metallica?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it's an old philosophical question going back to Aristotle, who first wondered about why his contemporaries like to watch these plays like Antigone or Oedipus Rex, where these awful things happen, right? And I think it maps onto Metallica's music. Like, why would you want to listen to music that made you angry or made you
Mm,
sad or made you fearful?
yeah,
And the answer from Aristotle is this word catharsis, which just means like a cleansing or a purging, right? Like
right.
a good cry is cleansing that way, right? Or relieving yourself by getting something off your chest or off your conscience is
That you're releasing whatever you're feeling at the moment.
that's it. That's it, right? And so You mentioned in particular "Fade to Black," right? Like it's not a song that is intended to encourage suicide. Quite the opposite, and and for myself, and I'm one of many, can say it actually helped me to stay away from suicide at my depths,
Yeah.
because I could really feel it and think it all the way through. And as we said before, even though it turns out that James was not feeling those particular things himself, it made me feel, less alone.
Yeah, maybe that's that I think that he shows James up until today this day those are maybe patterns of feelings that have been with him all along, and he just put them in his lyrics.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he certainly, had his, days of despair and struggle. I mean, the struggle within from the Black Album
Oof.
is really a song that encapsulates a lot of what's going on in his life and going
Yeah.
on lyrically throughout, throughout the recordings.
Yeah. So the book goes through religion, addiction, insanity and confusion, death, war, justice, freedom, emotional isolation, control, and resilience.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it just turned out that way. As I said, I started reading, writing, and reflecting, and those were the themes that came to mind as I was working through it. Just the way that you and I are having a conversation now, and you've got some notes of things that you might want to bring up. But we
Yeah.
don't know for sure where this conversation is going, right? And what topics that we'll move into, etc. But
Right.
that's the way the book came together. I mean, after a lot of careful editing and cutting and splicing and everything else, it just sort of came into those were the songs, not just like, here we're going to take Ride the Lightning and what's that about. We're going to take Master of Puppets and what that's about, right?
Yeah.
Like each chapter crosses over various albums and various songs, and makes connections that occur to me and I think are real, and maybe of interest to the
Yeah.
reader as well.
And we'll dive a little bit in some of the songs. You say you're very open to feedback and to people to connect with you. Have you received any criticism or responses from fans? What's the feedback you receive or your own interpretations?
I mean, it's almost disappointing that I haven't received more negative, but maybe that's because I've
I
been
get
so very open. As you
yeah,
reference, right in the book, I say, here's my email address, here's my Twitter handle, and I've gotten lots of nice emails. But I think if I hadn't proactively opened myself that way, I might have
yeah,
gotten more negative. And I invite the negative as well. The disagreement can be more interesting and more fruitful than the agreement.
yeah,
So by all means, anyone listening or getting around to reading something that I say or we say doesn't make sense, or you think something differently, that'd be great. Love to hear from
yeah.
people about that.
We will add that contact information in the description to this video.
Terrific.
And Bill, the first time I heard from you was in the Metal Up Your podcast with Clint, and I was very surprised. I was like, "What? There is a Metallica book?" And I couldn't believe it. And it's interesting now that I saw I prefer to read in English to kind of get the directly from the author.
Yeah.
And I saw that in the Spanish version, they don't translate right the lyrics.
Yeah.
They say the meaning of the songs, and
Yeah, there it
then
is. Pronounce it for me. El
el,
significado.
sen- el sentido de Metallica, el significado de sus canciones. So
Yeah.
instead of writing the lyrics, they say the meaning of their songs. I wonder why they didn't use the translation for ride, like riding a horse, or riding the lightning, riding the lyrics. But translations, it's always tough. So let's get into it. I really love how you titled and you connect the songs. Like in the chapter 1, you see the creeping leper Messiah that failed. I really love those connections from Ride Lightning to Master of Puppets to Black Album. Now, the Creeping Dead is, I mean, those songs have a lot of religious undertones.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it. Each chapter has a little subtitle on there that is a kind of a mashup of some of the songs, at least that are discussed in the chapter, right? And so
Yeah.
it starts with Creeping Death from Ride the Lightning, right? Which is a retelling of the story in the book of Exodus of the Hebrews
Right.
fleeing Egypt, and is largely inspired by the band watching the film The Ten Commandments.
Yeah, Charlton Heston.
Yeah, the Charlton Heston famous movie, and Cliff Burton actually, remarked, "Hey, it's like Creeping Death," in watching the
That's,
visual depiction.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's amazing. I mean, I think that your discussion in that chapter, you wonder who is the chosen from the song, and you question how the song could be interpreted from the narrator perspective. Like, typically people get happy. Christians get happy because Moses, he opens the sea and they are free. But very few people ponder the tragedy for Pharaoh and his people, that they die, and his sons. And talk us a little bit about that thought process.
yeah. It's a fascinating song in that sense, right? In that it's kind of showing the revenge that God is having, right? But it doesn't paint the God of the Bible in a very positive light, because couldn't he have done it in a kinder, gentler sort of way? Just let the people go, right? But the Pharaoh, and this is all based in the biblical story of Exodus. The Pharaoh is kind of
Right.
softening, and God hardens his heart, right? And all of these plagues, including
There's a lot of
this
mystery
awful
there.
one, right, of killing the firstborn of all of the Egyptians, right? That's the creeping death itself. And
Yeah.
when you listen to the song, right, like you identify with this awful agent of death, this creeping death, right? And
Yeah.
when you hear the song performed in concert, right, everybody's chanting along, "Die, die, die by my hand," right? And
It's crazy. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. And then you reflect on it, and in some way, it's a critique of that depiction of God, right?
Yeah.
That why would an all-loving, all-powerful God be so nasty and vengeful in that way, right? And
Yeah. When I was reading the book, I was kind of thinking out loud and seeing God Himself as a warrior. And that's a concept that some theologians have posted on the Old Testament.
yeah,
And in regards to vengeance, I was thinking, and maybe this may be a response to you, is that
yeah,
if you remember early in Exodus, Pharaoh is killing the newborn babies. And now he get his first sons killed. So evidently it's vengeance. And there's a lot to think about that, but it's more a critique. It's not a celebration of it. It's more a critique of it.
yeah. No, there is that sort of eye for an eye kind of thing, right? Moses
Yeah.
survives, the otherwise slaughter of the innocent, and but there is just implicit this critique, right? Of
Right.
the Pharaoh's a man, God is a God, right? And he wouldn't have to engage in this sort of eye for an eye vengeance, but he is the God of this Iron Age clan of
Yeah.
Hebrews, right? And so maybe it's fitting to the time and the place, but then you get a very different depiction of the divine, in the
Right.
Good Shepherd, in the New
Yeah.
Testament.
And I was talking to a friend. He runs a rock bar, and he asked me, dude, I don't get the relationship between metal and religion. And I am, man, there's a lot of relationship between metal and religion.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the Leper Messiah. The Leper Messiah is another uh, protest to false preachers, health and wealth, that kind of prosperity gospel. And similar to the Reformation, I think he mentioned it in the book when, Martin Luther would protest and tell us a little bit about that one. I think that section is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So Leper Messiah, right, from Master of Puppets, you had mentioned earlier and just referenced again, from the 80s, right? Jimmy Swaggart and Jim Baker, all those
Right.
guys were out there, right, with their own version of what, today we commonly call the prosperity gospel, right? With, I
Right.
won't name some of the players who are out there today, but everybody's familiar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this critique actually came before, this song came before so many of them fell from grace and fell from power with a lot of sexual
Right.
scandals and everything else, right? But
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you see something that isn't right, and eventually something happens, and you say, "I was right. My diagnosis wasn't that wrong."
told you so, right? I mean, in a way, you have James Hetfield acting as a prophet, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Calling out the sins of the age and, maybe even foretelling, what will happen. But it's even more complex than that, right? Because not only in the song is he calling out the hypocrisy of the preachers, but he's pointing the finger at those who blindly follow.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
preachers, right?
I mean,
Not being authentic, not thinking for themselves.
yeah. It becomes Leper Messiah becomes like a version of the Master of Puppets because they are pulling the strings, and they promise, by at the end they laugh at their followers, right?
Yeah, no, there's this real cynical take on it, right? So yeah, like the Master of Puppets, or like the general or whoever it is behind Disposable Heroes, right? Who
Oof.
really has very little regard
Yeah,
for the
we
people
will get to
they're
that
manipulating.
because
Yeah,
we want to talk about war a little bit. But in regards to the Master of Puppets, I don't want to miss the opportunity to bring up. There's a lot, so I have to be very selective. The
yeah.
God That Fell obviously is more personal for James Hetfield with the Christian Science. Some people say, it's not Christian and it's not science, but it's a wing of Christianity though. And it seems to me that James has evolved in his some sort of Christian faith because, like in the Hardwire, there's a lot of Christian symbolism, like yeah,
That's quite a story. I mean, and he's very close to the vest and very guarded about his own thoughts. I mean, clearly, we see a lot of criticism of organized religion and Christianity in the early albums, growing out of his own experience of a very closed-minded Christian Science upbringing. But we know that he's grown and evolved and changed. I mean, you just look to his tattoos with a big cross on his chest and a Jesus depiction, and we can't read his mind and know for sure what he thinks about that kind of thing, but clearly it's played an important part.
Yeah, I mean, and some fans need to understand that we all evolve, we all change. Like some people are still upset. There was a guy the other day telling me, Metallica was Metallica only until the Black Album. I don't listen to anything else. And people change, and we grow up. We grow.
Yeah, but I mean, just to kind of give that view its due. When you think back, I mean, having lived through it with them, they were so authentic and so against any kind of watering down of what they did, right? Like, famously, they wouldn't make a video for MTV when MTV wanted a video. They
Yeah.
wouldn't change their style or anything like that. And that's what really drew so many of us to them, among other
Right.
things.
The
And so
authenticity thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
so to see that change and time wise, when it changed, particularly in the early '90s, is when metal really needed them the most, and when they turned least metal. Right, this was
Yeah.
when all the the crappy hair bands were
Yeah. I
watering
mean,
down
the
metal.
90s were difficult for all metal bands.
Yeah, except, I mean, what was going on in ways that I didn't really register at the time, and I'm still not a huge fan of. There was this
Yeah.
huge underground movement with
Grunge.
death metal and black metal. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
grunge was what took over the airwaves and the popularity, but there was real metal going on,
Yeah.
underground with death metal and black metal.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about uh, the connection between the Master of Puppets, the House of Jack Belt, and the Hardwire.
Mm.
I think nowadays, with the growth of internet and so many digital era, video games, many other ways, I think addiction is really a problem in mental health. And there's many ways to be an addict, and the addict for a while thinks he's okay. And sometimes he admits he's an addict, but he won't speak, or he won't speak in a way nobody understands. Tell us a little bit between that relationship of those songs, and how does that reflects a philosophy of we need to be free. We can be sober.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a great question, and it's very personal to me. And as you mentioned, there are many things that a person might be addicted to, right? And more
Mm,
each day, whether it's video games or internet or sex or
yeah,
pornography or any of these kind of things that people become addicted to.
yeah.
But part of the irony of Master of Puppets, which we referenced early on, as literally in some ways being about cocaine addiction with the line "Chop your
Oh,
breakfast on a mirror." Uh,
come back to Pablo Escobar.
but Hetfield himself was mostly sort of anti-drug, aside from
Yeah,
a little bit of
it was more like
dabbling.
alcohol.
Yeah, he
Oh,
was an
alcoholic.
alcohol guy and was a full-blown alcoholic at the time of writing that song, but was also at the top of his game as a songwriter, musician, etc.
Yeah,
And may well have thought that he was immune to any of the
I mean, I
downsides
think
of it,
many of
right?
us may have thought that.
Sure, but then again, on why write a song about addiction if you don't think you have any kind of issues about it, right?
Right.
So I sort of think that even at that moment, he has this kind of realization that maybe he's got his own kind of issues, right? And
Yeah.
really in his case with alcohol, although there are other potential addictions to anger, to
Hmm.
control, to all these
Yeah.
sorts of things,
I mean,
right?
and all the traumas from again, the Christian Science, his mother, um, his father. There was a lot of issues there.
Oh yeah, and so whatever it is, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or whatever a person is using to deal with pain, whether it's the terrible traumatic pain of the loss of his mother, and the some of the trauma of kind of religious fundamentalism, whatever it is, right?
Mm, hmm.
Uh, but again, the song itself is told sort of from the point of a malevolent narrator who is the master of puppets, right? And you
Yeah,
think you're free, and you think you're getting what you want out of this, but in the end, right? The master of puppets is just going to use you up and throw you
yeah.
away. And there's always another.
And I think that element of the narrator makes the cathartic experience deeper because there's a narrator. It's not James. It's not you. It's somebody breathing out, so to speak, the song, and then you sing it, it kind of helps you, live it in a vicarious way, more existential way.
Oh yeah, and it's ingenious to narrate it from that perspective, right?
Mm.
It makes, again, you have a similar malevolent narrator in Disposable Heroes, but that makes a little bit more sense. We've seen that kind of thing before with the general who doesn't really care about the men that are being sent into battle.
Yeah.
But to think of the addiction itself, and then it turns out in the song really that although you may think of the addiction as something bigger and outside of you, it's really a part
It's
of
inside
you.
of you.
Yeah, it's inside,
Mm.
which it's difficult enough when you're feeling mistreated from the outside, right?
Yeah.
By parent, teacher, coach, general, whatever. But when you realize that it's all an inside job and you're doing it to yourself, that's catastrophic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of the song Moth into Flame. There's a section that it says "High Again," and it sounds to me that when he screams "High Again," it's like disappointment, or like the narrator saying, "Man, you did it again. Why? Like this can be happening. You're high again."
Oh yeah, yeah, no, and that's a great recent song. I think that was partly inspired by the singer Amy Winehouse,
Yeah.
and her tragic end as a result of drug
Mm.
addiction and alcohol, and it's just the same thing over and over again, right? I mean, it's not a new story. I mean, in the rock era, it goes back to Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, and
Right.
you trace it through up to the present, right?
Mm.
Or at
Oh
least
yeah. Yeah.
present of. I mean, there's a good bit of inspiration on Death Magnetic. To Lane Staley from Alice in Chains, who lost his life
Yeah.
to addiction, and it just goes on, right? And it looks
Mm.
really good when you're flying high again, like you say there, right? Which is
Yeah.
probably the moment that James is at on Master of Puppets, right? He's at the top of his game, right? Everybody's bowing before him as this complete master, but he's really being controlled himself by the drinking, even at that point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's fascinating how you can find all these topics in Metallica. That's why they have been able to influence millions, literally millions of people.
Yeah.
I have been with my entire family in symphonic band covers. And, from my 10-year-old daughter to my wife and I and my son, we all enjoy the show. And somehow it makes more sense now. It's more understandable, more acceptable, not like the satanic panic from the 80s.
Well, yeah, I mean that's part of of maybe the danger of it in a way, right? Is that it's become so acceptable and mainstream. It's not dangerous anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't gone to see them on the last couple of tours. I mean, it's its own issue with traveling and expense and getting in
Yeah.
and out of a concert, and I'm old. But also, it's like, I did see them back when they were really raw and
I mean, you
hungry.
said it with Cliff. That's
Yeah, and now it's more of a family kind of thing. I mean, which is great. People come with their sons and daughters, and even grandsons and granddaughters, and they, beach balls come out,
right.
but it's not the same thing as what it was. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
great in its own way, but there's also something a little bit sad about it, in the sense that
Yeah.
what was there is not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. And there's another topic I would like to bring up with you is war. That you can dissect, that you actually dissect from the songs. But I think war is obviously a theme in the world and through Metallica. I don't know if James loves Western movies. I think there's a song when he said, "We're out of luck." I think I heard that to Clint Eastwood in one of his movies.
Uh,
And, my dad, he in the 80s fought the guerrilla dozens of times. And we never talk about that. He might not see in the video. But I think PTSD is an issue. And Disposable Heroes talks about it. The day that never comes. One, human dignity. Is it worth living in a shell? Tell us a little bit about war in Metallica.
yeah, it's a great theme in Metallica because it seems to go in different directions. Kill 'Em All is all celebrating these warrior virtues and kind of romanticizing the idea of fighting against
Yes, it can destroy,
yes, you can destroy all that kind of
jump in the
thing.
fire. Yeah.
But by the time you get to Ride the Lightning, it turns, more critical, right? Because the reality of war is not the kind of movie version of war where you're some kind of a hero, right? But Ride the Lightning has For Whom the Bell Tolls, right? Which is based on the
Oof.
Ernest
Nuclear.
Hemingway's novel, right? Where you have to wonder, is it really worth it, right? And by the time you then get to Master of Puppets, we have Disposable Heroes, which we've referenced quite a bit already, right? Where clearly it's not worth it, right? And then you get to Injustice for All, which you referenced as your kind of entry point, right? With one, where clearly what this person has suffered and the fate he's now enduring was not worth it, right? And then PTSD, right, which you reference. One of my favorite recent or semi-recent songs is "Confusion" from Hardwired to
Yes.
Self-Destruct, right, which was inspired by the movie American Sniper, and the whole idea of trying to come home from war.
Yeah.
Right, like you can literally be home, but you don't leave the trauma
Yeah.
that stays with you.
I'm pretty sure you remember the First Blood movie with the Stallone,
Yeah,
Rambo.
yeah,
And I think the end of the movie has a dialogue that he says, I used to run tanks and very expensive weapons, and now I cannot even work as cars.
yeah,
And that movie really portrays a soldier coming from Vietnam, which is, back in the day, I think the 80s were still under discussion.
yeah.
And here, like in my country, we still have guerrilla and a lot of war. And the question is it worth it? Is it worth it to be disposed? I mean, how worth it can it be if you're disposable, if you're just a number?
Yeah, and really, it's seductive, right? In that, the angry young man, patriotic maybe, wants to go and do it, and then finds out that the reality of it is not Clint Eastwood movies or World War
Mm,
II movies, right? It's not as heroic. There's a lot of kind of mistreatment that goes on and manipulation. And then even when it's over, it's not over, right? Because of the scars that stay with us, in the form of PTSD, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I'm against the next war even before it happens. I can't. There are very, very
Yeah.
few justifiable ones.
Yeah, I agree. And there's many things in the world, like in terms of economics and elites, that a justifiable war is just too complicated. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the 20th century, I think, is the century of the largest bloodshed in human history.
It's,
And
it's got to be. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'll give a shout out to the OGs, Black Sabbath, with one of the greatest anti-war songs ever, "War Pigs." Really holds up.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, yeah, it helps to meditate on I think human dignity a lot to me. Like in the Song of One, I think there's a conversation between the priest and the captain, I think, and one of them says, he's a product of you, not me.
Mm.
And the soldier is just there. Nobody cares. And, sometimes maybe even the addict, or when you're depressed, you realize nobody cares. You're on your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's very tough. Or sounds like trapped in their eyes.
Yeah, it's funny you're mentioning there one, and I'm thinking in particular of the video. And so when they finally did a video, they really did it right with one. I mean, that was a work of art. That
Yeah.
video and some of the movie dialogue from Johnny Got His Gun that was interspersed with that. Uh,
Mhm.
just amazing.
Well, Bill, I am very thankful to be with you. It's been fascinating. I think there's a lot to converse, to talk about this. I just encourage our people, our audience, to get the book. There is one that everybody may know, Amazon.com. You can find virtually any book right there.
Thank you, Anderson. This has been a great conversation. I'm so grateful for the chance to connect with your audience. It's awesome to see the book out translated into Spanish. And as I said before, I'm very glad to hear from anybody through email or Twitter if you've had a chance to read any part of the book or just listen to this conversation. It's always a pleasure to connect with fellow Metallica fans.
So we come to the end of this episode. Thank you everybody for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow Dr. Irving. And make sure you buy the book, The Meaning of Metallica, Write the Lyrics. Thank you for watching. And I really hope that this was a good introduction to Metallica and philosophy, the meaning of the lyrics. And maybe you can see a fresh perspective of this band, of this music. Maybe you have been influenced by them, you have been a fan, and just follow and think the lyrics, write the lyrics. This is Anderson, and see you soon.